Welcome back to podcast What the Hell Do We Know? Co-host Ryan here with my special guest co-host who's just continuing on with me. And Matt, who knows? Maybe we'll still be saying that in years. Special guest co-host. If there's three co-hosts, do you still call each other co-hosts?
I think so, because it's it's not like it's not a binary thing, so it's like yes.
We're all co-hosting. Maybe you should be a special guest co-hosting, or maybe you should be co-host, and then Shane is also a co-host whenever Shane comes back, because all three of us could be on here. Have you ever listened? I guess I've listened. Yeah, I've listened to a podcast with more than two people. I mean, generally one or two, but I've listened to one with more than two, so that's all good. Hey, more the merrier, in my opinion. Jump on here. Let us know if you know Matt or I. Let us know if you want to join us. We'd love to have you. But anyways, our episode today with Ryan King and the Love Master. I think I'm just gonna say that every episode, the Love Master. I just love it. It's like the best nickname in the world. We're gonna dive into it's not all about Jesus, and don't freak out. You got two people here that love Jesus, but also love all people. You can be LGBTQ, you can be Muslim, you can be love Islam, you can love Buddha, you can be Hindu, Jewish, you could, love the trees. Personally, I love the trees. I got some trees behind me in this background. Palm tree is my favorite. I don't have a tattoo, but I'm seriously considering a Skittle lounging in a beach chair under a palm tree drinking a drink. Like, that's just me. So that's what I'm considering. Or maybe just a palm tree. One of the two,
Not just a palm tree, it's gotta be the first one.
So yeah, anyways, I can't, my mind's so thinks through so crazy things. That's why I've been thinking about a tattoo for 20 years and haven't decided on one. Because when I turned 18, I was like, ooh, tattoo. 20 years later, I'm still like, ooh, tattoo. But every day I'm like, I don't know what I would get. Anyways, I do want to say, I want to read the Buddha quote, Matt, and just, that quote hit me so hard, it hit you so hard. And we did 3 episodes, one on each part of this Buddha quote. And so if you go back to our podcast, you just search or whatever app you're using or whatever, what the hell do we know? We're on YouTube as well. You'll see some really great podcasts, in my opinion, about these 3 things. I've listened to you, Matt, on these podcasts, and what you've said has really, really impacted me. So here we go. Buddha said, in the end, only 3 things matter: how much you loved, how gently you lived, and how gracefully you let go of things not meant for you. Ooh. So good. So good. So Matt, here we're gonna go. It's not all about Jesus. But before we dive into that, give me the one thing and maybe the one quote by Jesus that just wrecks you every day.
It's interesting. The one thing about Jesus that wrecks me is the one thing that I'm trying to learn more every day, which is the absolute acceptance and absolute love for all of the people around him. And then it's funny because when I talk about that, it's going to be strange because I realize, you could quote a whole bunch of Bible verses, but the thing that really, is affecting me now is when the woman is going to be stoned and everybody's saying she needs to be stoned. And he literally says, let those who are without sin cast the first stone. And then he looks at her and everybody leaves and he looks at her and he says, hey, is there anybody here to condemn you? Yeah. And she says, no. And he's like, well, neither do I. Yeah. And I used to read that like he was squaring off on the crowd. Anybody without sin, you will, throw that first stone. And he was standing there, chest puffed out, anything. And I believe sincerely that the reality of all of that was he didn't have to. there wasn't any part of his acceptance that people didn't understand. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong, they didn't like it, but they didn't not understand it, because what he was clearly, that's a scary word.
He was clearly saying.
I'm trying to be really careful, because that's not what I'm trying to say. But what he was saying to that crowd is, if you're better than that, please let me know, because I'll be interested and probably have a conversation. But like that, he said, well, is anybody here to condemn you? Well, I don't either. Neither do I. And I can't get through that, because for so long, if certain things didn't line up with my theology, then I would be able to throw that stone at them. I would be able to, because it was just a part of who I was. But now that's wrecking me so profoundly, because I'm realizing or at least partially realizing, not completely, I don't think I've got a handle on it at all, but partially realizing how much love there is and how unlimited it is. Whereas the one that I saw was incredibly, incredibly limited to a specific group or a specific type with, if you check these specific things off this card, then you were okay. And I don't believe that his love isn't just completely all encompassing, like for everyone. That's what's wrecking me these days.
Yeah, I love that, man. I love the joke. Peter and John are checking people into heaven, and they go, "Where's Jesus?" And they go, "Damn it." Well, maybe they don't say "damn it" in heaven.
Well, maybe
in this joke they do. Damn it, he's sneaking people over the fence in the back again. And this is an honest statistical analysis of my understanding of Christ, in my opinion. And for those that don't know me, I was a pastor for a decade. I did not grow up in the church, so I don't have that history, but I do have my master's in theological studies. Really dove into Jesus for the last 20 years of my life, and fell in love with who Jesus was. Really don't like anything organized religion has done over, broadly for the last, eternity. And no matter what organized religion is, it just seems like, man, we do some great things, but then the other things seem to outweigh them, and I know we're all human. That's the same thing in my life too. I've done some awesome things to help people. I've done some horrible things as well. And I've got to balance those and continue to try to pursue good. But I think what I love about Jesus is he calls us to the good side of us. Mm-hmm. He says, this is the quote that gets me all the time. And every sermon I've heard often focuses on the first two parts of this quote, but it's, they ask him, Jesus, what does it all come down to? We got like 323 different laws we've made, you can't put your left hand in and your right hand out on the Sabbath. You can't spin around and shake it all about. You can't do any of that. Like, don't breathe, don't look that way. If a person falls in a hole, leave them there until Monday, don't help them. Just all this non-Jesus stuff happening within the law. And Jesus goes, listen, at the end of the day, if you forget every law, if you forget it all, it just comes down to love God and love your neighbor as yourself. And the part that's been hitting me for like 2 years is love yourself. And you and I have talked about that, but like, love yourself. Because I think it's impossible to love your neighbor and impossible to love God if you don't love yourself. Because God, you are made in God's image. Every single one of us around the world made in his image. So when you look at that mirror, to love God, you've got to love that person in the mirror. So I love that quote. And then the thing about Jesus that gets me is Jesus lived outside the wall. And what the hell do I mean by that? In ancient culture, cities built walls around themselves for protection. But at the same time, anybody they didn't like, women, foreigners, lepers, other sick people, anybody they didn't like, they threw them outside the wall where there was very little food, very little resource, very little jobs, very little economy. All of that's a very little provision for them. And where did Jesus go when he visited towns? Outside the wall. and he came into the town, and he talked to them about the people outside the wall, and he talked to them about their religion, how it related to the people outside the wall, and he challenged them to live outside the wall. And I just love, I think about where we're at right now. And I think about the last maybe 100 years. African Americans were often outside the wall. Native Americans were outside the wall. And World War II, Asian Americans were outside the wall, as we put them in internment camps. We've put LGBTQIA plus people outside the wall. We've put gender outside the wall. We put immigrants outside the wall. I could go on and on and on. Whoever's not like us, whoever we disagree with, we put them outside the wall. And I just think today, where would Jesus be? Those are the people he'd be with.
Yeah.
Those are the people he would be with. He would be with the oppressed and the downtrodden, the looked down upon. And I just thought to myself this morning, like, everything Jesus did, the organized religion of the day seemed to really stand against in so many ways. And I'm not saying that Jesus stands against everything of organized religion today, because I do know in Christianity, Catholic and Protestant, evangelical, I don't know if that's another division now, I'm not really sure. In Muslim, in Jewish and Hindu and Buddha, in no faith at all, atheists, I think there are aspects of Christ in all of those things. I believe that Christ is through all and in all. I believe the cosmic Christ idea that we see him everywhere. He often shows up in other texts, And so before we talk about, it's not all about Jesus, man, you and I, we love Jesus.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Love Jesus. We just aren't crazy in love with people who grab onto Jesus and run with him in their own interpretations, because the Bible clearly says, because Jesus clearly told them to, because they got a dream, an interpretation, a word, because they saw something in the sky, because they read something
And what's interesting is I've seen all those things, and I've had words, I've had dreams, I've had good interpretations and bad interpretations. I've seen things. I've seen things that are unimaginable to a lot of people, genuinely seen them, and I know you have too. But it's interesting because there is a freedom within, and I'm not trying to draw a dividing line, because I don't feel like I could draw a dividing line, but I look at it and there is a difference between the idea of Jesus and who Jesus was as a person. I realize that all I have is texts, and I can read those and I can be inspired and I can look for him everywhere in all of these things in a newer light that I have, which is he really does love all of those people. It really is. And it's not about running out and trying to bring them, might get us in trouble, running around and bring them this salvation gift, because if not, they're going to hell.
I don't think it's about that.
Yeah, I don't either.
I don't think it's about that at all.
Yeah, but it's interesting because that's a very real, prevalent, process. And I look at that and I think I don't think that that's the Jesus that. Oh, Ryan, this is hard.
I don't think we have any bearing on whether people go to heaven. So I even when I was a pastor, I used to say I can't send you to heaven, so I don't send you to hell. It was a great, little saying from the stage to say. But now I'm in a place listen, I have zero significant proof that heaven or hell even exists. Jesus said very little about it. You know what I mean? Yeah. It possibly could. And here's the good thing. My solution, I think, would get anyone to heaven if they want to go there, if they believe it exists. And I think it would keep them from hell. And I know your pastor at your church recently preached that we get another chance after we die. That was Rob Bell, love wins. I'm like, hey, maybe we do. Maybe we don't. I don't know. Let's just freaking love people ridiculously. Yes. If we boil Jesus down, what's that thing where you boil things down and it smells really bad while you do it? Come on, you're a cook.
You're concentrating it. It doesn't smell bad. It smells amazing. What are you talking
Some of them don't smell amazing. Now, my wife did boil some Skittles down and then put it into a cheesesteak, a cheesesteak, a cheesecake, a cheesecake, a cheesecake, a cake. She made me a Skittles. Oh, I'm gonna get it. Come on, it's called something. Anyway, she boiled. It was almost there on the tip of my tongue. Anyway, she boiled it down. And then we had a roommate who used to live with us. She used to boil things down, and what she boiled down did not smell nearly as good as the Skittles boiling down. And sometimes I'd come into the house and I'd be like, "What is that smell? Did someone die?" Yeah. Anyways, like if you boil it all down, I just feel like Jesus, like, yo, love the person in front of you ridiculously. Love the person to your left, the right, the person on the other side of the border that doesn't speak your language. I mean, that you've judged, that you don't understand, the person who's completely different than you. Love them. I've gotten the pleasure, to live in San Diego, which is a beautiful place. It's also right next to Mexico. So like hop, skip, and a jump, 45 minutes, I'm in Mexico. Right. Mexico's like, hey, come on in. It's really funny. If you walk in, they want your passport. If you drive in, they're like, hey, come on in. But like, it's so like I have to drive, it's like, I decided because sometimes I walk in, sometimes I drive in, but I've gone and I've served at the migrant camps on the other side of the border.
Right.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, when you serve and you hear the stories, and you meet with the people and you look the children in the eyes who are living in these tiny little tents, in the middle of the street, like literally in the middle. They've taken over the entrance to the border. They've actually closed down one of the two San Ysidro borders for the migrants on the other side. And, there's no more room at the end. We're not letting anybody else in. Like we have all these people in and we don't have enough room for even those that we've already let in for asylum seeking. It's a really tough situation, but I'm like, this is where Jesus is.
Yeah.
And I think I talked about my statistical analysis of what I know about Jesus before, but I never shared it.
Mm-hmm.
I think 2%. 2%. I just think when I think back to my master's degree, the books I read, I'm like the context, the depth of what he was saying, the understanding of that time. I'm just like, I think I've got a hold of 2% of who Jesus is.
Yeah.
I'm just really lucky that 2% is pushing me towards love.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, are you sure? You're so sure you're going to hate someone. You're going to yell at them that you're going to hell. You're going to vote. You're going to use your vote. Remember, love someone as yourself, the Bible says.
Yeah.
Love someone as yourself. So if you want the right to be free and work anywhere, if you don't want to be discriminated against, if you want to be able to walk in and get a wedding cake or flowers anywhere, I mean, if you want to be treated by the police somewhere, then you're loving someone is voting and moving in ways that allow them to be treated in the same ways you want to be treated. Like love yourself. Love is not just an effing feeling. It is an action, And so, but let's get to our thing. We're so far in. We've said some amazing things about Jesus. Here's the thing. It ain't all about him. They tried to make him king. He ran away. They called him good. He said, no one's good besides God. And my spiritual director has had some conversations with me where he's like, Ryan, to Jesus, it wasn't all about Jesus. He was constantly pointing people to others. He was constantly pointing people to the Father or to the God omnipotent. You know what I mean? He was constantly pointing them in the other direction. I do think there's an aspect, when Jesus would walk into a church today and he's got Jesus all over our shirts and we're singing Jesus and we're saying the answer to every Sunday school question is Jesus. I think there's an aspect of Jesus would go, yo, this whole thing wasn't about worshiping me 120% of the time. I was trying to point you to other things. I was the messenger. Yes, Messiah, I think, for all people. And he came in other places at other times and other forms, in my opinion, too. Not just that of what we see in the Bible, but he was the revelation of God loving all and giving them a relationship with God, in my opinion. But at the same time, he was saying it's not all about me. Yeah. I don't know. I've just said a lot.
No, it's okay. And I'm glad you've said a lot. I think that you're completely right in that he didn't say it was all about me. It wasn't, it's like, okay, no, look to God. But it was the incredible example of what love can look like And I hate the word should because there's no victory in it, because you can't win either way. Should is just a nasty word. But there's this incredible, like, in my opinion, shining example of what love looks like. And it's pretty wonderful to be able to have something to measure, without a scorecard, have something to measure and look and go, okay, this love sets me free. And that's one thing that I learned a long, long time ago, is that love sets you free. I have seen people be bitter for a really long time and angry in it. I've seen it, eat them up. I've seen people who just live in this cloud of darkness and frustration of having everything right. You got it all right, but it's this deep kind of darkness, because correct is normally, in my opinion, a human construct. It's something that we've decided correct looks like. So, okay, good, you fit in that box. But what I love about Jesus, and what I love dude, Ryan, if you know two, I know probably like 1/3%. But
Disagree.
but this whole, but like, we have an example of things that we can do about meeting people where they're at, about loving people, and not about meeting people where they're at so you can pick them up and bring them to you because you're so special and you have everything. Because I guarantee you, if you meet somebody where they're at, quote unquote, you're there. There is something they have for you. It is a gift, because everyone, I've gone through things that you haven't gone through. You've gone through things that I haven't gone through. And the reason I believe that we're supposed to love is because we have a piece of each other that we need, so our lives can be better, not only more fulfilling for us, but also to be in a place where we can go to that person in front of us. And that's the Heidi Baker, love the one in front of you, period. Not if, and not with ulterior motive. Love the one in front of you, period. Yeah. And do to the best of your ability. And you do have to love yourself. And Ryan, I got to be honest, I look in the mirror sometimes. I don't like me. I don't like whatever. Maybe I've made a bad choice, or it's been a bad day, or I've been a jerk to my kids or my wife, which is more often than I'd like to say, but it's true.
But Matt, be frustrated with what you've done, but love you. Because you recognize that every person F's up almost every day. Every once in a while, we've got those bullseye days. But Matt, like, love you. That's where I've been trying to grow in.
Yeah.
We so often connect what we do to who we are, and that's not, our identity is not what we do. Now, our identity can produce what we do, but our identity is not intrinsically connected to what we do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So love you, love to be, and let that love of you change what you do. Get you to stop effing up. Right.
That's good. And it's funny because for so long, because of the way my mind works, consequence, all of these things, instead of realizing that effing up, which I've done a lot of, really, really big, but effing up is this thing. You can either look at it with it's either in the good list or the bad list, right? Yeah. So there's a song by AJR right now that I'm just in love with. It talks about, 100 bad days equal 100 good stories. 100 good stories make me interesting at parties. So that's incredible. That's it right there. 100 bad days is 100 good stories. And it makes me...
Business people say all the time, it's my failures that led me to success, not my small successes.
Yeah, completely. And it's funny because the focus on the good, which is the small successes, is the part that for so long has led me to distraction. Looking at it like something was bad, or I was bad, or all of these things, which I don't believe anymore. And frankly, learning how to love me, which is the thing that I'm working on too, learning how to love me, I think is going to change everything. And I already realize how much it's changed, because this journey has really pretty much been since I got a wake-up call last October when I was in the hospital, and it was like, okay, there's more to this, and it's a bigger life, and I got to stop putting all of these things on myself. So,
and I think man, I just love what you say, but also diving deeper and little too, like we've said a lot of times, like Jesus pointed away from himself to God, pointed away from himself, but he also pointed to others.
Yeah.
He pointed to the woman who was poor but gave 2 pennies and pulled out the incredible joy and purpose and satisfaction you find in being crazy generous, sacrificially generous, to help others. He pointed to the Roman soldier. Now, mind you, the Roman soldier, the synagogue Jesus is going to, they're preaching that like the Romans are from the devil, quote unquote,
right.
And they gotta overthrow them. And Jesus points at the Roman soldier and goes, yo, that dude got some faith. Like, you want some faith? Like, that dude got some faith. Then he tells us a story about the Samaritan on the side of the road. And like, the Samaritan is the immigrant who speaks another language, who doesn't know God, who's definitely going to hell. I mean, in Jewish culture, and he looks at them and goes, yo, that dude lived like Jesus.
That's the guy.
Like the priest, you walk right by. The religious zealot, he like, I ain't touching that dude. He gonna make me dirty. You know what I mean?
Right.
He's gonna make me unclean. You know what I mean? He's gonna take me away from his faith. I mean, I've seen some people look at me recently and go, yo, I gotta put myself some distance between you, Ryan. You're gonna infect me with those, boogies that are gonna get me away from Jesus. You know what I mean? You're gonna make me love too many people,
Right.
Man, I hug a gay person, I might be gay. Like, help me, and Jesus is like, yo, it was the dude who you say doesn't get it. The dude who doesn't know God, who doesn't speak your language, who's so far outside the wall, you can't even see him. He's the dude that lived like me. And I just love that about Jesus. He was constantly pointing to others.
Yeah.
And then he used creation too. He used trees, he used birds, he used grass, to give examples like, yo, it all flows together. Can you see the birds? Man, the birds got faith in me.
Yeah.
Can you see the mountains? They move, and it's like he uses these things. And for me, I get this incredible privilege of living about 2 miles from the ocean, and I've fallen in love with the ocean. What I love, the ocean's for everybody. The ocean expands everywhere. It gets everywhere. You know what I mean? It's for everybody. And where the ocean meets the earth that we live on, this moon that God created, with the ocean in relationship creation, the waves just keep coming. You can't stop them. You can't stop them. Bezos, whoever the dude that owns Virgin Atlantic, I can't remember his name right now.
Richard Branson.
I mean, all these billionaires, they can go to space. Awesome. Have fun up there. There ain't a lot of people, but I do appreciate they are donating a lot of money to help people. So kudos to them. You might hate them or whatever. I don't really care. You know what I mean? But like, kudos to them for that. But like, we can't change the moon, but those waves just keep coming. And you know what keeps coming? God's love.
Amen.
For everybody around the world, no matter what ocean you make it to, you see those waves, be like, yo, his love just keeps coming 24/7, nonstop. Sometimes it's gentle, sometimes it's big, sometimes it causes problems. When you love somebody, sometimes it wrecks your life when you really try to love somebody. I've had the privilege of getting to know some people I've met on the street and helping them get into a home and get a job, and loving them has caused some problems in my life.
Yeah.
But through them, I have met Christ.
Mm.
I have seen Christ in them. The lonely, the forgotten, the downtrodden, the poor, and Jesus says that wonderful quote, as easy as a camel walks through the eye of a needle, a rich man walks into heaven. I'm like, F, because like most of America is rich. Damn it, Jesus. Like, make it easier.
Oops. I was going to say something. I'm not going to say it.
All right, I'm going to let you close. I've just like ranted a couple of times.
Oh my gosh, I love it. It's so great.
It's not all about Jesus. I'm going to let you close us.
Okay. So it's not all about just looking at Jesus. It's not all about It's not about surface level Jesus. It's about doing the things he did. It's about loving the one in front of you. It's about realizing that literally everyone was created in the image of God. And if that is the case, then they are beloved by him. So there, if you are a follower of Jesus, you are not required. You are, what's the word I want to use?
Compelled.
You are, yeah, compelled is a great word. It is therefore your responsibility to love the one in front of you. If they're destitute, do your best to take care of them. And it doesn't mean you have to run around and like empty your pockets all the time. If you're inspired to do that, at all means, get it done. Go to San Diego, go to Tijuana, go and minister to those kids, minister to those people, do whatever it is in front of you. But the realization for me now is it's the loving aspect. It's I feel like before I was kind of closed off to love in some respects, and I can't live that way anymore because his love is so much greater that me holding on to it it's almost like it all gets polluted inside of me. Because if it's a flowing river, if like his love is the river of God, right? So much imagery, the river of love coming from him, from the throne, in through us and out into the world. If I'm choosing who gets to play in that river, okay, you can get in, you can't, no, stay away from here. Wait a minute, hold on, come on, fill out this checklist, let me read it, and then we'll go through the analyzation process and all of that stuff. No, it's like, it's here to flow, and love just flows. It just does to whoever is in front of you, because whoever is in front of you is in front of you for a reason.
Yeah.
And
I know I said I'm gonna let you close, so I lied.
Figured.
Because what you said, it just inspires me to just say at the same time, if you listen to this and Jesus makes you puke that name because of the way you've been treated by Christians or a church.
I'm sorry.
Or just your understanding of Jesus, that's great. In my opinion, just find love in this world, no matter what faith you are or no faith at all. Find love. Find love for others. Find grace, find mercy, work against judgment and hate. Help love people like Matt and I who love Jesus. Because man, do we F up when we're trying to love. I know the church, I've been a pastor, the church is trying to love. They're trying to follow God best they know how, and they mess up so often. So love us, help us get there. So often I've seen, I had this conversation this week. Someone, just said a comment of like, well, you can't really find peace without God. And I was just like, well, I gotta be honest with you. I have a lot of friends who don't really believe in God or Jesus and have found a ton of peace. And I got a lot of friends who really do believe in God. And I'm just like, when I look at those two groups of friends, one side seems to lack peace more often than the other side. And you'd be surprised about which side that is. And I'll just leave it at that. What the hell do we know anyways? You can throw all of this away and believe whatever you want about Jesus. Because I do think you can believe whatever you want. You're probably going to land on some of love, hopefully. But here we go. This one is titled, It's Not All About Jesus. And I hope we get in trouble for everything we said. Love you, brother.
Love you, buddy.